ESPN's NFL Power Rankings after Week 1. The defending champs are number 1, followed in the top 5, Kansas City, New Orleans, the LA Rams, and Philadelphia. But which of the 5 actually belong in the top 5? That's when we know it's time for one Stephen A. Smith.
Exactly, and I got my own top 5. Ryan Clark, lift your head up and you look at me when I'm talking to you. I got my own list. I got my own power rankings, okay? Let's go to number 5 on the list. Give it to me. The New Orleans Saints. Why? Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. I got it. I didn't like the way they struggled against Houston initially. I didn't like the fact that they were supposed to lose this game if Houston's defense shows up. But for some reason, just like they did last year in the regular season against the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles, they did the same thing on Monday night, okay? So the Saints are in my top 5, but barely. Sorry, that's the way I see it. Let's go to number 4 on the list. Give it to me, the Cowboys. Why? I know they looked impressive. I know they got Zeke back. I know Dak deserves his money. I like Michael Gallup. I see Amari Cooper. I see the crew. Guess what? It was against the damn Giants. What do you want? A cookie? Please. You're in my top 5. Be happy with that. Let's go to number 3 on the list. The Eagles. Give it to me. Why do I have them against ahead of the Cowboys? I'll tell you why. When you look at the Eagles down 17-0, you look at how Carson Wentz, who hadn't been in the playoffs, who's been accused of being not available because he obviously hasn't been available come playoff time. He shows up first game down 17 points, got his brother Deshaun Jackson with him for the first time. Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz. The Eagles, watch out. Here they come. I know Jay Gruden's Washington Redskins. This is Jay Gruden's last year in the nation's capital. I get all of that, but it doesn't take away from what I saw the Eagles do. I loved it. They're in my top 3. Let's go to number 2. This should be very predictable. It's the Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Travis Kelce. It's Sammy Watkins, okay? Tyreek Hill got hurt, didn't even matter. Why? Because they're just that lethal. Patrick Mahomes coming off an MVP season. First game back, 378 yards passing. The brother is big time. Max calls him the best talent in the National Football League. Probably right about that. The only thing you can't say about the Kansas City Chiefs, other than their defense is trash, is this. They ain't number 1. We know who that is. It's the New England Patriots. Why? Because you got Tom Brady. Why? Because of James White, Sony Michel. Because of Julian Edelman and the crew. Oh, by the way, I was going to sit up there and say Antonio Brown, but we don't know whether or not he's going to be available for them. Still in all, what they did to my Pittsburgh Steelers, I got to give it to them.
That I was going to say, Patriots, Chiefs, I got no argument, except with the AB stuff. If someone wanted to flip-flop them, like I saw in the AFC Championship game last year, if not for a pre-snap penalty, the Chiefs beat them.
Kansas City Chiefs is garbage.
Those two, 1 and 2. However, Eagles, Cowboys, Saints, by the same logic that you have the Cowboys there, couldn't you put Baltimore there?
Yeah.
Baltimore whooped up on a bad team, but Lamar Jackson, and who do I always quote the analytics, Stephen A?
Yeah. Yes.
Warren Sharp.
The greatest, he claims, and he backs it up, the greatest age 21 passer in the history of the NFL. Passer!
Right.
Lamar Jackson! Compare apples to apples. Compare it to people his own age.
Max, newsflash, there's a debate as to whether or not the Miami Dolphins are even
an NFL team.
But hold on. I mean, that's our issue right now. We don't even know.
Same thing with the Giants.
Excuse me, I'm so disappointed in you.
The Dolphins are better than the Giants.
This is a week-to-week list. Yeah. We've listened to this guy and everyone all summer be so hyped up about the Browns.
I was about to bring it up.
Go on the road and smash them.
Don't the Titans?
No, they don't. In your week-to-week list?
Molly, yes. I'm consistent. I never thought much of the Browns, so I'm not making a big deal of the Titans.
I got one more for you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan. You can finish your...
if the Saints are on the list, I understand some people might have them higher than 5. The Texans lost on the road by the skin of their teeth on a 58-yard field goal. I know they're 0-1, but the Texans, to me, have an argument for a top 5 team right now.
Yeah, but they lost, so that's...
Right now, the Texans are a top 10 team to me because of what we think about the Saints and the fact that they had that team beat with 37 seconds left, and the guy that cost him that game, he's sitting at home today. They released him.
That's right.
Because he didn't do what he needed to do to stop that last drive. I like the Cowboys there. The Cowboys are 5 to me just because coming into the season, I didn't have them ranked as high as the Saints, and they beat a team in the New York Giants that right now defensively just isn't competent. It's a team that they don't play right technique-wise. They aren't physical. And the hustle, to me, seemed to lack as the game went on. The Eagles are there not because I felt like their game was so great against Washington. It's what I saw in the second half. This team starts out slow.
They explode.
Your quarterback hasn't played in the playoffs.
They knock out punches.
He was injured, and he starts to get it going, and they seem unstoppable. And obviously, the top two, Stephen, I can't argue with you at all. Those two offenses and what we saw from them.
My list is pretty good.
It's only 1 week.
My list is pretty tight.
They went on the road.
I'm a huge Rams fan. Obviously, what scares me about them is when the most important player on your team is the backup running back. Right? We saw it with C.J. Anderson. Now you see it with Brown early on in this season. Todd Gurley can still do things when he gets the rock. He went for 98 on 13, 14 carries. But he needs to be a 20-carry, 25-touch guy. And if he can't, this team can't be what they were last year. I'm
uncertain about the LA Rams because of Gurley's health, and that brings into question Jared Goff, because Jared Goff, particularly with the contract that he just signed and the way that he can fling that football, should be big time enough to offset the compromised Todd Gurley, and none of us are sure he can do that yet.
Early on, when I see a team like the reason I have the Texans, arguably, I agree, top 10, probably not top 5, over the Panthers, let's say, is the Texans went on the road to barely lose by the skin of their teeth with a lot of unfortunate things happening, including a 58-yard field goal against them, to barely lose. The Panthers lost by a field goal to the Rams, but
I have a question off of that for you. This is off the subject. You and I had the debate about Deshaun Watson, and I said I thought he was a top 10 quarterback. Seeing what you saw from him in primetime, do you believe this guy belongs in that conversation?
I do. I think that, in fact, we argued the other day, I think by the end of this year, come these upcoming playoffs, if you just isolated quarterback play, you may even prefer him to Drew Brees.
And I think that's
by the
what
time
moves
that happens.
the Texans into the top 5.
I agree. Watson's special. I agree with you.
All right. We'll leave it on that note. Ryan, thanks for being with us.
Thank
Always
you, guys.
good time. What should the Patriots now do with Antonio Brown after being accused of sexual assault? Second hour, first take after a quick break. I wanted to get to that.
How fit to be the boss? Let me find out. My team balling. You look like you need a timeout. I'm a star in the clutch. I'ma shine out.